So we went over the Balfour, the ancestor of the Mandi Saniki people. We went over the Saniki, who are a Mandi people. Now, what about the Dan? All right, the Saniki or the Mandi people also have a people or a tribe known as the Dan Yakuba, and we're going to go over them today. And before I do that, I'm gonna play a quick video in reference to these Dan Yakuba, and then we're gonna go into some history about them. So please pay attention to the video. You're gonna have to read the words on the screen because it is in French. So 1 second, and we will watch this video one right quick.
Et auprès du rabbin Mavrato, un juge rabbinique éthiopien, étant la référence sur le judaïsme d'Éthiopie, d'où les Danites prétendent venir. Mais au fait, que disent-ils sur leur origine?
Par rapport à l'origine des dents, il y a des dents dont on dit qu'ils sont descendus du ciel par une chaîne. Ça, il y a des catégories, il y a des villages comme ça, chez les dents. C'est-à-dire qu'en réalité, l'origine du dent au village, on ne le connaît pas. On ne la connaît pas normalement. On dit qu'on est venu de l'Est.
Ou bien du Nord.
C'est-à-dire du Nord, quoi. En descendant.
Est-ce qu'en tant que dent, il vous est déjà arrivé de parler entre vous d'Israël et d'un rapport que vous avez avec Israël?
Nos parents disent que nous sommes venus du nord du pays de Dieu. Et c'est plus tard. C'est plus tard qu'on a appris que l'Israël a été le pays que Dieu a visité.
D'abord, nos patriarches, certains patriarches qui étaient là, qui sont des patriarches, qui ne sont pas forcément intellectuels, hein, mais qui sont quand même cultivés sur le plan culturel, ils reconnaissaient que nous venions de l'Orient. Ça, dès l'enfance, on reconnaît cela. Mais ils ne savaient pas effectivement si on était de source hébraïque ou non.
So that's just a little breakdown and oral tradition of those peoples, these Mandi Dan people, coming from the Middle East into their present day abode. And one thing I want you all to realize, I'm not just giving you the history of all these different tribes that have nothing to do with each other. All the tribes I've brought out are from one group known as the Mandi. All right, so let's dig into the Dan Yakuba. The Dan, also known as Yakuba, Mibi, Samia, and Gil, are a Manding speaking people or group of people who today are consecrated in the Ivory Coast, especially in the departments of Man, Diane, and Biakamuma. There are also smaller clusters of Dan people across the border in Liberia, primarily in Namibia County near the town of Tapia or Tapta. Sorry for butchering all these words, family. But it gets interesting here because it says, although many Dan reside over the overtures, although many Dan resisted the overtures of Islamic missionaries from the Mali Empire in the 15th and 16th century, a substantial number eventually became Muslims, just like the rest of their family, right? The Dan are primarily sedimentary farmers who raise high altitude rice, cola nuts, peanuts, cotton, millet, rice, goats, chickens, and various forms of fruit. All right. So that's just a little background on these Mandi Dan people. So let's look at some Israelite history. And this is coming from the Phasmid and the Twig. So in the 8th century BC, the kingdom of Israel was destroyed by the Assyrians between 740 and 720. Almost the entire Jewish population was expelled and replaced by the Assyrian colonists. The 10 tribes that made up the northern kingdom then disappeared from history forever. They reappeared in legends here and there among the Khazars in America and in Africa. The African hypothesis has survived until today. A few years ago, a patient of mine from the Ivory Coast, a speaker of Dan, told me that he descended from the Israelite tribe of Dan. He goes on to say his were more than mere words. He wore a skull cap, All right, we see the Dan with the skull caps, and he let his fringes of his prayer shawl hang down from his jacket, and injected into every second sentence an emphatic Baruch Hashem to convince me that he was what he claimed. So these people do claim to be descendants of Dan. Like I showed you the video of the elders speaking, and even here we have them claiming to be Danites from the tribe of Dan. Not only that, we have the tradition of Eldad the Danite telling us his people, his family, his tribe came into Western Africa. And one thing I want you all to notice is the traditional wear of the Danites. They seem to have preserved that ancient Israelite look, if you ask me. Even here, even this attire here, it just looks very, very ancient Israelitish to me. Even if you was to watch that full video of what I showed you all, you even had the Ashkenazi man saying, "Where did you all get this attire from? It looks so similar to what we wear." So again, I actually believe this to be very, very similar to the ancient Israelite attire that these Dan were able to preserve. Jews in places you never thought of. A related story about surviving memories of Jewish roots in West Africa was told to me around 1976 by Shimon Peres, the former Israeli prime minister. He had just returned from a meeting of the Socialist International, during which he had met with the president Leopold Senghor of Senegal. In the course of their discussion about the possibility of normalizing Senegalese-Israeli relations, Senghor told Peres that he too had Jewish ancestors. When Peres recounted the incident, we both smiled somewhat incredulously. Yet, indeed, there are a number of historical records of a small Jewish kingdom and tribal groups known as the Beni Israel that were part of the Wolof and Manding communities. These existed in Senegal from the early Middle Ages up into the 18th century, when they were forced to convert to Islam. Some of these clans claim to be descendants of who? The tribe of Dan. That's why we see the people known as the Dan today. These are these same people. The traditional tribe of Jewish gold and metal artisans, who are said to have built the golden calf. Not only do we see these same people being associated with gold, metal artisanship, we also see these people being associated with the tribe of Dan. So we dealt with the Balfour. We've dealt with the Mandi. We dealt with the Dan. And it's one more people. It's one more tribe that we can deal with to show Israelite traditions or Israelite heritage amongst the overall Mandi ethnic group. And we can do that by going into the Bambara. The Bambara, who are called themselves the Banamakan, are a large ethnic group who speak a Manding language. Their population today exceeds 3 million people and are largely located throughout Mali, as well as in northern areas of the Ivory Coast. They can also be found in Guinea-Bissau. They are the largest ethnic group in Mali, and their language is the lingua franca in the country. Several hundred thousands of Bambara are scattered throughout Guinea, Senegal, and Gambia. They are especially concentrated on the Niger River from its interior down to Bamako, and on the Bani River in the east to the Karta in the west. All right, so remember that word Karta, because we brought some information out on that last video. It says because of the particular soil composition in the savannas where the rural Bambara farm with heavy clay content, they develop uniquely cooperative agriculture system in which the whole communities jointly plow, plant, weed, and harvest crops. So we also see that these tribes have similar traditions as far as it comes to agriculture and things of that sort. So during the 18th century, there were 2 Bambara kingdoms in West Africa, the kingdom of Segu and the kingdom of Karta. A century later, however, in the middle 19th century, a series of militant Muslim revivals overthrew the Bambara kingdom. So when we see all these kingdoms, specifically all these Manding kingdoms, came to an end because of the Muslims, all right, because of the Berbers, because of the Sanhaja, the Almoravids, whatever you want to call them, right? So let's get into the Jewish traditions of this Bambara kingdom. like we just read over. And to do that, we're going to go to the Jewish Herald. It states specifically right here, a Jew who had accompanied a German traveler as far as Timbuktu found near the boundary of the kingdom of Bambara a large number of Jewish Negroes. Nearly every family among them possessed the law of Moses written upon parchment. Although they speak of the prophets, they have not their writings. Excuse me, 1 second. All right, they have not their writings. Their prayers differ from those of the other Jews and are committed to little leaves of parchment, stitched together and containing numerous passages derived from the Psalms. These Jews have mingled some of the superstitions of oral law with those of their neighbors, the Mohammedans and the heathens. They enjoy equal liberty with the other subjects of the African chiefs in their synagogues and their rabbis. The explanation to which they give themselves in their connection with their black skin is that after the destruction of Jerusalem, at the time of the first captivity, some of their ancestors, having neither goods nor land, fled to the desert. We all know the first captivity of Israel was indeed the Assyrian exile or the Assyrian captivity. So again, this is kind of this tradition amongst the Bambara is again lining up to the other traditions that we've brought out of these people coming in at a certain time, leaving Egypt at a certain time, and coming into the Western Sahel of the desert at a certain time. So again, everything's lining up. And to finish off, it says access to these, or let me read from here actually. It says these are highly interesting facts and create a strong desire that these unexplored regions may be speedily open to intercourse with the civilized world. Access to these ancient manuscripts, which are probably older than any other now extant, would be a great value in correcting the received Hebrew text or in throwing light upon the doubtful passages. So not only does this Jewish Herald, right? This is a Jewish book. So not only do these authors of this book let us know that, hey, it was a Jewish kingdom. It was a colony of Jewish Negroes in this Bambara territory. We know the Bambara territory was inhabited by the Bambara, so this would have been a Bambara that they was talking about. It also lets us know that these Jews in the Sahara could have old ancient Hebrew manuscripts that could actually correct some things we see in the scripture today, which is very, very interesting. Just to throw that out there. And again, this is coming from the Jewish Herald. All right. And we're going to go back to the Archives Marocains and read a little bit about what Eldad told us, because again, he told us the areas that these Jews settled. And I just want to show that Karta was one of these Jews, or was one of these locations that these Jews had settled, in turn connecting them to the Bambara. And again, this is coming from page 71. It says we will devote a separate study to it. Among the geographical names given by Eldad and often manipulated by the copyists, we thought we could identify a certain number, which here are a few. We already know about Adrar, Todima or Todimaka, Kukia, Countu or Kumtu, Tukort or Tukort. We have Tukalur, Tukuba or Kechi, or Karma or Kartas, all right? And again, this will be encompassing the Bambara kingdom as we read right here. All right. And again, this is letting us know this is location that Eldad outlined the geographical regions where Jews settled, and Karta, the Bambara location or the Bambara kingdom, is one of them. All right. And again, here is Karta in the Timbuktu region. So let's deal with the conclusion. Let's get into the conclusion of the matter. And to do that, we're going to go back to Archives Marocains and we're going to read the conclusion. So the invasion of the Arabs in the 7th century threw into the Adrar and the Khazars of the desert entire tribes of the Jewish religion, which joined to the tribes originated in Arabia, succeeded in founding at the beginning of the 9th century the first empire of the Sahara and the Sudan, which coincides with the chronological data of the Arab authors quoted. We know the first kingdom to come up in the Sahara was the kingdom of Ghana. All right. It was actually by the Jews of Adrar. All right. The Saniki, who came from Adrar from the Balfour. All right. So again, it says, however, around 837, Tutan, the son of Takran, and probably the father of the Jewish prince Aduj, converted to Islam, which ushered in an era of wars between Jews and Muslims in West Africa. These wars, our Danite knows how to tell them, and only a study made on them spot could elucidate them definitely. It emerges, in any case, from what we have managed to extract from his remarks, that the Jews around 850 to 860 still had firmly that they occupied a territory of 200 days' march, which does not seem excessively, as we consider that these tribes were nomad and that their influence was exerted from Kukia to the ocean. All right. We know this territory specifically was the kingdom of Ghana. From Kukia right here, we pull out my pen, Kukia to the ocean. All right. We see Kukia, and actually here's Ouagadougou. All right. And actually here's Kumba Sahel, the capital of Ouagadougou. So Ghana actually was pretty huge, right? And people don't realize that. The capital of the Ghana Empire was in Mauritania. All right. The capital of Ghana was in Mauritania, Kumbi Sahel. So what was the conclusion of this? In the 7th century, the Arabs came down into the Adrar region and pushed these Jews into the desert, which led to the foundation of the first empires of the Sahara in the 9th century, which in turn was the Kingdom of Ghana. Negro Land Revisited. It says, Eldad's story became popular, especially after Lakem Karmi, a well-known and prolific editor of Hebraic texts, published a French translation in 1843, which made the text available to non-Hebraic readers. Jewish scholars had been arguing about Eldad for centuries, although they were much or less interested in his African adventures than the laws of legal practices of his alleged background. Nevertheless, there was for a long time no reason to expect Eldad's claim that there were once a Jewish kingdom somewhere in the African interior. As we have already discussed above, his claim was supported by various nearly contemporary Arabic sources. Also, there were several European sources for the existence of Jews or Judaized blacks in West Africa. As discussed above, Luis del Maramo Karaja claimed that some West African blacks had been Jews before their conversion to Islam. All right, and that was, I guess you can say, that one of the themes of this video, showing you the history of these Jews in West Africa, who in turn was a part of this community known as the Bani Israel. And this was before they was converted. All right. So the summary of this specific page right here is that West African blacks have been Jews before their conversions to Islam. All right. Specifically the people known as the Mende. And to wrap it all the way up, I believe these peoples to be descendants of the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Dan, and the tribe of Asher. All right, Maurice Delafosse put it pretty good. Like I said, a Judeo-Syrian, ancestry from the Southern Kingdom and Northern Kingdom. I believe these people to be Yehuds or Judah, descendants of Judah, specifically because in Mauritania, they were known as Yehuds, right? It was Mauritanian legend that they were known as Yehuds. Not only that, you find these Judean date palm trees in these locations that these people were. All right. These specific palm trees, they weren't in Lebanon, they weren't in Northern Kingdom Israelite territory, but they were specifically in Judean territory, and they wound up in Balfour, West Africa, which was why I proposed that you have descendants of Judah amongst them. I also say they have descendants of Dan. Why do you say descendants of Dan, Will? Because we read about the tradition of Beta being brought into the kingdom of Ghana, the guardian snake. We know that is a tradition amongst the northern tribe of Dan, and with them being associated with the snake, and even snakes and serpentine figures being found in their homeland and tell that in archaeological sites. We also have a people known as the Dan Yakuba, or the tribe of Dan, amongst these people, which leads more credence to they are descendants of the tribe of Dan. And I firmly believe this as well, because the traditions and the story of Eldad the Danite, especially with him traveling with a Saniki or Mandi person, that just lays credence even more that the Danites did make their way into West Africa, especially the fact that they were said to be a part of the Bani Israel community as well. And even here to the right, I say that they have descendants of the tribe of Asher as well, because again, they do have people in Morocco, they do have people in Mauritania that do still speak this Asher or Azer language. Eldad the Danite was said to be traveling with a Saniki Jew who was of the tribe of Asher. So again, everything we went over, connecting these people to the Bani Israel from the different traditions, the different legends, and the different history and events that got them into or got them converted into Islam, and to this day just shows me overall that this legend came together and concluded me with these final thoughts on who I believe these tribes come from. All right.